Welcome to the Brand Doctor Podcast, strategies that help entrepreneurs build reputable and profitable brands. Here's your host, Henry Kaminski Jr.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? Henry Kaminski here from UniqueDesigns.net with another Brand Doctor Podcast episode for you. Hope everyone is doing well today. I'm doing amazing. A lot of great stuff has been happening lately and just super fired up to keep it moving. And we have a whole bunch of new resources and products coming out over the next couple of days. And I'm super excited to share those with you. I am positive, based on the research and based on the feedback that all of you guys gave me recently, these resources are really going to help you take your brands to the next level. So look out for those on Instagram and Facebook, and definitely grab a copy, because I'm telling you, I am laying it all out for you guys in these digital resources. I'm not holding anything back. You guys want to know all the behind the scenes tricks and secrets that I'm using to grow my business. I'm just giving it all to you in a very systematic way. So let's dive in to another question from my audience. So this question comes from It's Biological. So big shout out to It's Biological, and thank you for asking today's episode's question. And it's a very good question, and it's kind of a three-part question, and I'm going to hammer out all three parts to this immediately. So she asks, where do you start with branding? Like, how do you get going? Like, how do you know you're in the right direction, or, you even know what it is that your brand does or wants to be known as? And that's kind of the answer to the question. It's, you really got to sit down, and I've said this in a previous episode, but you really got to sit down and ask yourself, okay, how do I want my audience to perceive my brand? How do I want them to recognize me and remember me? That's number one. Number two, you need to know who your audience actually is before you go out and start to brand yourself. Because number one, if you don't have an audience for your particular product or service, you're going in the wrong direction. So you got to make sure that there is a need. Just because you think that there's a need for the product or service, that doesn't mean that there actually is. Your market will always determine what it is that you sell. So it's key to listen to them. Okay? So where to start with your branding? Again, you can't get into logos and websites and all of the fun stuff before you identify what it is that your brand stands for, how your brand differentiates itself from the competition, why should anybody listen to you in the first place, how are you relevant to your audience. And those are some key questions you need to start asking yourself immediately before you start to build your brand. Because a lot of stuff is going to come out that will define how your brand gets created. So that's where you start, is sort of digging deep into yourself and asking yourself, why am I creating this brand in the first place? And then kind of go from there. So the second part of the question, she asks, when is it the right time to reach out to bigger brands for collaboration? Well, you can't reach out to any bigger brands yet until you have defined your messaging, have defined your identity, right? So after you do the homework on yourself and on your customers and your target audience. Then you can go into the identity part where you start to create a logo, you start to create a website, you start to create these digital assets, these brand assets that actually take your idea and concept and make it a reality. Because when you reach out to the bigger brands, the first thing they're going to say is, hey, what's your website? Show me your website. I want to learn more. And if you don't have a website, you're screwed. If you don't have a logo that represents what the brand is, you're screwed. So make sure you don't put the cart before the horse. You can't reach out to these bigger brands until you actually have the brand established. So have your brand established before you reach out to the bigger brands for collaboration. Otherwise, they're not really going to take you serious, and the chances of you collaborating with them is like 0 to none. All right? So the last part of the question is, when is the best time to start putting out my product or service? Now. Like, what are you waiting for? When you finally find out what your audience wants and needs and desires, you have to craft that product immediately or craft that service immediately and give it to them. What are you waiting for? The more you wait, the more you're going to wait for sales to come in. So get it out there. You know, the success is in the execution. You can't just dilly-dally and think that these products or services are going to create themselves. And, you know, Ryan Holiday in The Perennial Seller, you got to get that book. He talks about product a lot in the beginning of the book, and he says, listen, I know all of you guys are excited about marketing and excited about your reaching out to your audience and connecting with them and, you know, doing all the fun stuff. But if you don't have a outstanding, not a good, not a great, but an outstanding product or service, you're not going to win. You're not going to win. So when you find out what it is that they need, want, and desire, I'm talking about your audience, you have to create an amazing product that will stand out from all the competition. Which leads me to the next point. If you're not doing competitive research, if you're not looking at how your competitors are generating leads, what your competitors are providing to the target audience that you want to target, they're always going to be 3 chapters ahead of you. So make it a daily routine to get out there and take a peek at what some of the competitors are doing and then model it and make it better. Add things in it that you would want to have if you were buying the product or service. That's the key. That's the key. So once again, I want to give a huge shout out to It's Biological for asking this question, because it's very, very important to understand where to start with branding. It starts with you and understanding why you're putting out the brand or creating this brand in the first place. Because if you don't have 100% buy-in on it, neither will your audience. So it all starts with the why. People always will buy your why, and they will buy you before they buy your product or service. Look at the greats out there. Gary Vaynerchuk, Lewis Howes, Fabio Viviani. Their audience buys them first, and then they buy the service or product. So make sure that you understand, and your intent is pure. Because that's when everything great starts to happen. And then you go into the design phase. You start building your logo. You start building your website. You start building the products and services. Then you can start collaborating with bigger brands that have a bigger audience. Then you can start putting out products and services immediately. Because the more you wait, the more you're going to wait for revenues. So why not get out there immediately and start giving it to them? So that's it, guys. Start implementing this stuff today. Because time is finite. At the end of the day, guys, you think you have all the time in the world, but you really don't. So get started. All right? So have an awesome day, guys. Hope you got some value out of this episode. If you haven't shared it with a friend or colleague yet, please do. And if you have more questions, throw them in the comment section on my Facebook pages, on my Instagram pages, on my YouTube pages. I will make sure that I hit every single one of them. And I will designate podcast episodes, YouTube videos, posts, anything to make sure that you get the answers that you're looking for. So have an awesome day, guys, and I will check you on the next episode. Talk soon.
You've been listening to the Brand Doctor Podcast with Henry Kaminski Jr. To get your appointment with the doctor, visit Brand Audit at www.uniquedesignz.net.